I'm ready.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining today. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Octavio Hinojosa. Octavio, how are you doing today?
Doing great. I hope everyone's doing well today. Everyone's staying safe and healthy.
Thank you. So Octavio, one of the things that we're doing with our interviews with our speakers is giving them the opportunity to introduce themselves and to provide a little background. And you can do that professionally or personal. But if you wouldn't mind sharing with our members your story and your background.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate the opportunity of sharing my story. It's certainly a story of I would like to say, of success, of resilience, and of service to others. And in quick summary, I've been very much fortunate to have had some unique opportunities, not only in my personal and professional life, but certainly an opportunity to be of service to not just to fellow Hispanics, Latinos throughout the country, but certainly to everyone who is committed to furthering common objectives for the betterment of society. A little bit more about me. I always introduce myself. I'm proud to say I'm the eldest son of Mexican immigrant parents. I was born in Los Angeles. I was raised in the Midwest, mostly in states of Kansas and Illinois. So I basically had that unique perspective of being a Midwest Latino, of being always the first in everything, the first to go to college, the first to do this, the first to do that. And certainly in my own formation as a leader, I was always inspired by the examples of national Latino leaders to really make a difference for our community. And so that has really lit the fire in me to pursue a career in that direction. After I finished my undergraduate studies at the University of Kansas, the first opportunity I had to move to Washington, D.C., I took it, and was fortunate to volunteer on the Senator Dole presidential campaign in 1996, only to arrive to Washington, D.C. with the news that they were laying off all the workers, and certainly there was really little opportunities for me to be of service in that presidential campaign. But nonetheless, that kept me in Washington, D.C. It brought me to Washington, D.C., and I was fortunate to spend 17 amazing years in Washington, D.C. working for the federal government, first at the U.S. Department of State. Then I worked on the Hill for a group of congressional members, and I had the fortune of starting up a national nonprofit called the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute Chile, which I'm very much proud of to see that it is a highly recognized national Hispanic organization. And I've also had the opportunity of working for the National Hispanic Corporate Council, NHC, which gave me the opportunity of engaging Fortune 1000 corporate leaders and helping them understand the tremendous opportunity that the Hispanic consumer market offers to their companies and employees. And on a personal note, I live right outside of Austin. I'm married, a father of 3 children. Yesterday, my 10-year-old had his birthday, so it was a very special birthday given it was COVID, under the COVID environment. But nonetheless, I'm happy that we're blessed, that we're healthy, we're doing great. And certainly we want to continue working and making a difference for others during these very difficult and challenging times. I hope that summarizes my background. And,
No,
yeah,
that does. And I mean, you do have a very unique perspective because as you were saying, you were the first in everything, and particularly Hispanics in the Midwest. There was a point there where there were just very few of us. So did any of that propel you to start some of these organizations that are focused on Latinos?
Oh, absolutely. I think the fact that, I always make the comment, if I had grown up in an environment where perhaps the Hispanic community, which would be of a higher population density, say, for example, in California, Texas, or Florida, I may not have given a second thought about, the unique aspects that one brings to the table as a minority, or as someone who, in my case, was raised bilingual in both English and Spanish. So having that unique characteristic always compelled me to to do my best, if you will. I was very active in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, and that idea of always doing your best was really embedded in me, and I always try to bring it forth to this day. Hence, very few opportunities, but also meant there was also great opportunities of being engaged with organizations and leadership opportunities. So I always was very cognizant that you're always setting the example for others, and certainly was very much made aware at an early age about negative trends in our society, such as high school dropout rates. You know, I obviously do not want to be a statistic in that particular area, and also the importance of aspiring for higher education. So hence the push to pursue college education was very strong in me. And of course, after that is pursuing a master's degree, graduate studies, and so on. So there's always a drive, and certainly there's always some great opportunities of service and leadership as you know, as I progress throughout my career.
Do you feel like was it a difficult thing to engage your family to whenever you went to college, like your parents, and because it was, you were the first child obviously going to college, so was there anything that you learned from that experience?
Oh, that's a great question. Yes, unfortunately, there was some pushback. I think that had a lot to do with parents who were not educated in the U.S. system, and their lack of awareness or understanding of how the U.S. education system works. On one part, my father, he was a welder who worked in a union, and felt very strongly that I should pursue a trade skill to earn a living. On the other hand, my mother was very much committed and supportive at encouraging me to pursue a college education. In fact, when I was a senior in high school, being the youngest in my class, you know, I graduated at 17 because of the way the academic year, you know, the cutoff, you know, to begin school was set in Kansas in particular. I basically had a gap year, an extra year to kind of think things through. And I was very inclined. In fact, I was holding the pen this close to signing off on enlisting in the Air Force when I was with the recruiter. When I decided, you know what, if I could hold off a year, I think I'll, you know, give myself the opportunity to pursue a gap year experience. And I'm glad I did. And so what I did was something I think was life-changing for me. And that was, I spent an entire year in Mexico living with family, close relatives, to live that experience. And during that year that I was in Mexico, basically the year when I turned 18, you know, I had the unique experience of going to high school there. So I had that kind of foreign exchange student experience, which ended up becoming short-lived because I felt like I was just, you know, hanging out and not doing anything productive. And at the time, my uncle owned a mine out in the Sierra Madre mountains in the part of Durango, which is very rustic. And so I asked if I could go work for him at the mine, and he was hesitant because, of course, there's dangers involved. So apparently there was a conversation between him and my family, my parents. And my dad basically said, send him there so you could, you know, learn to be a man, basically. And so I'm so glad I did it. It was extremely hard work. I mean, it gave me a whole new appreciation about who I am. Here I am, the nephew of the owner of the mine, working with a pick and shovel with the miners who, you know, the first time I experienced someone who was illiterate, who did not know how to read or write. And I realized that at the moment when he had to sign his pay stub and he could barely write out his name, Pablo. I worked with individuals who knew that their fathers would die at the age of 40 because of lung diseases. And they were making minimum wage. So I think minimum wage at that time in late 1989 was about $3 a day working in a mine, which is basically in the US was $3 an hour, $3.45. So, you know, here I am as a high school graduate earning minimum wage in Mexico and living some very difficult circumstances. And so that made me realize that, you know, I need to come back to the United States and pursue a college education. So that was my big push. And I'm so glad I had that opportunity. I would definitely do it all over again if I was asked to relive it.
It seems like it was a formative grounding experience for you.
Without a doubt. I mean, it was my boot camp,
Yeah.
right? It was hard labor. I mean, I know what it feels like to go to bed with your muscles aching and your back literally, you know, you couldn't even bend over because of all the weight that you had to carry with the rocks and what have you. But, you know, being a naive 18-year-old, you know, I loved every moment of it. And to think about how my fellow coworkers, when it came to Christmas, they invited me to go back to their homes to spend Christmas with them. And they're all from very humble beginnings and backgrounds. And, you know, that just goes to show you how much I connected with them. They connected with me. I learned some of the best jokes ever in my life from them. I could, you know, only tell in certain circumstances. But
Yeah.
definitely, it gave me a firsthand experience because what I ended up doing was studying a career and trying to understand why some countries are fully economically developed and others are not.
Yeah.
And so that has been a constant in my background as well.
And from what you're saying, I mean, I can kind of see you taking those experiences and then understanding what you're taking to Washington.
Yeah.
Was that something that you drew from whenever you were doing your work at Washington?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, all the time. I mean, it's you know, and when I went into my master's degree, you know, I went in with the idea of pursuing a master's in public administration with a focus on international development and administration. Um, and so that was one of my ways of thinking, you know, uh, the idea was to go back to the State Department and to be able to work in as a career foreign service officer and being assigned to other countries and obviously, you know, kind of being of service and being of help, right?
Mhm.
But my career took a turn when an opportunity to work on the Hill came about. And so I ended up working for a group of congressional members. And that also was very instrumental in my own formation because then you see how their leadership, the influence that they play at the global level is very unique amongst countries because a member of Congress in the United States is when they go visit another country, and I had the opportunity of accompanying congressional members to other countries. I mean, they're treated as senior diplomat officials, and you get the royal treatment. I mean, it's like you know, it's fun to always be in a police-led motorcade, right? And you're zipping through and you're getting the VIP treatment. It's a unique experience. It's also something that I cherish and always look forward to you know to sharing those experiences with others. But again, having the opportunity of meeting presidents of other countries, foreign government officials, and seeing how U.S. policy can help benefit their countries of origin. Like a great example was the years that I was in Congress was promoting and passing the free trade agreement with Central America and the Dominican Republic. And as someone who's been very big about the U.S. Mexico free trade agreement, you know, certainly was a big advocate and champion of opening markets to countries of where so many of our fellow Latino citizens are from, and
Right.
ensuring that they could develop their own economies.
Yeah, that's amazing. And thank you so much for your work.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So another thing that we're trying to capture from our speakers is if you have any stories from well, not really interacting, but where you have been when it's been beneficial to you, the relationship of a mentor or someone that has helped you propel your career at any point, and you know what lessons did you learn from there?
If you could repeat that because it broke up.
Yeah,
I mean,
mentorship. If you had anybody who was your mentor, and if you learn anything from that relationship. Did it break again? Are you there?
Hey, sí.
Hey. All right. Give me 1 second. All right. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, it just sometimes with the rain it loses the connection. So
Also, raining over there. It rained all day yesterday here.
yeah, it's raining. So we were talking about mentorships, and if you had been, um, if you had any relationships with mentors, and what you learned from those relationships.
No, without a doubt. I mean, having mentors is key. Um, at times I felt like there was moments in my life where I most needed a mentor. I wish I had one, but I've been very blessed to have had mentors throughout my career, and certainly they've invested time, effort, open doors, which has also led me to paying it forward, right? To being a mentor to others. And I certainly value and enjoy that opportunity of guiding others in a direction that is a positive route for themselves and their careers. And it goes without saying. I mean, it's anyone who is someone in a position of leadership has had mentors to guide them along, and it's indispensable to have those individuals in your life and to find the right individuals to help open the doors. And one should never be afraid to ask for guidance and ask for help. I always found that to be key in identifying and developing these very crucial key relationships in one's career.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's move on to the last two questions, and these are questions that I've been asking of all of the speakers. How do you keep your Hispanic heritage alive?
Oh, great question. I live it every day. I'm proud of it. For me, it begins with language, el español, no?
Mm-hmm.
I speak it every day at home, at work, with friends, and that forms the basis of my identity. Because if you think about it, and I shared this with others in podcasts and other conversations I've had with folks, is that I grew up with the concept of being a linguistic minority, not necessarily being someone who was of an ethnic, racial, religious minority. So for me, Spanish was my defining identity characteristic, right? To be the ability to speak it, because in Kansas at the time, there was the only people who spoke Spanish was my immediate family members, and certainly the opportunity of also traveling to Mexico every summer during summer vacations and growing up made me realize at an early age how important it is to be bilingual.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that I've been fortunate to maintain my fluency in Spanish and improve upon it has opened doors tremendously. For example, on Monday evening, I was interviewed live on Mexican news channel to discuss the current presidential campaign, to give my perspective on the race.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly, to have family members immediately call you when they see you on TV is very enjoy. It's a nice little, it's special, right?
Yeah.
But certainly the ability to now that we're connected as we are right now virtually, to have virtual meetings with people in Spain, in Argentina, and Colombia. I mean, the entire Spanish speaking world has been open to me as a result. And so I always focus on the importance of Spanish. I always tell people and remind them Spanish is a language of high culture.
Mm-hmm.
It is a language of international business. It's a language of research, of communication. And more importantly, it's a language that captures this amazing cultural tradition that expands, that goes beyond race, goes beyond countries. It's global, and
Right.
it's a beautiful language. And the fact that it's been spoken here in the United States before English also is important to emphasize that Spanish is an American language. And
Right.
so whenever unfortunately you hear incidents or see incidents of people who begin attacking others because they speak Spanish, it really saddens me. But it certainly goes to show you how much work we have to do to educate our fellow citizens that Spanish is an important language and it's part of our identity as Americans. And I often see and champion and thank companies, especially Fortune 1000 companies, who realize that offering their services and selling their service products in Spanish is smart business.
Yeah.
It helps them increase their bottom line. And the fact that they are doing the effort of being an inclusive as they can by hiring bilingual workers, such as at banks, also sends a strong message of interest in engaging the Hispanic consumer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And I think you're totally right. Whenever you have another language, it opens a different world. I mean, the rest of the world is open to you. Like you said, you can travel to Spain, you can travel to Argentina. That's amazing. So my last question, what's next? What's a new project that you're working on, or anything that's on the horizon?
Great question. I mean, well, certainly this whole situation that we're living in has caused us all to rethink our business models, to rethink how to best confront this global crisis we are facing. And one of the things I have realized is that you need to really put on your strategic thinking cap on to help others guide through these challenges. I have a client that I'm very proud of my association. It's a work called, the project is called Cancer Road Trip. And it involves supporting cancer survivors and helping them share their life of living life after cancer. Unfortunately, most resources and services are focused to the prevention and cure of cancer. But we're also now seeing an increasing number of individuals, thanks to the advancements of medicine, that our cancer survival rates are increasing. My cancer knocked on the doors of my house 1.5 years ago when my wife was diagnosed with papillary thyroid cancer, which was malignant. It resulted in her thyroid being removed, but it also led me to a process of kind of learning about cancer and realizing that cancer is cancer, regardless whether it's a almost 100% curable cancer like my wife's case, or it's very aggressive and deadly, as we have seen with pancreatic cancers and other forms of aggressive cancer. So the opportunity to help this client guide through this the storm and pivoting the business model from focusing on doing documentaries of cancer survivors traveling the world, because now we can't travel. We pivoted and created a podcast series called Bump in the Road, where we highlight the success stories of individuals who, after facing a significant challenge in life, a bump in a crisis, how they've been able to overcome that and be a positive for others. And so we're very proud of all the stories and people that we're interviewing on a weekly basis. And it's available. I'll go ahead and do a plug-in. It's available on all major podcast platforms to listen to. So I would encourage people to take an opportunity to listen to that unique project, and certainly helping other clients in thinking through how they can engage and grow their businesses under these very difficult circumstances. So there are a few other projects that I'm working on, which I'm not at liberty to disclose at this moment, but it has a lot to do with rethinking and reinventing yourself during a moment of crisis. Okay.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. That's an amazing initiative, and it's very, it hits home, because my dad had prostate cancer, and he he had his surgery, and he's doing well right now. But yeah, it's scary. Doesn't matter, what the odds are. He's still, it's tough. So thank you for what you're doing.
Yes.
Well, just want to wrap it up, and thank you for taking your time to share your story, share your accomplishments, and also the stories that go behind that, because I think that's something that people don't get to see. They see someone that has, achieved certain goals or milestones in their life, but they don't see where it came from. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you. And you have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you for the opportunity.